I'm Chance.
And I'm Sarah Catherine.
And this is Conservation Connection.
Presented by Last Chance Endeavors.
We are a husband and wife team running a wildlife education nonprofit. It's focused on connecting students to their environment.
Each week, here on Conservation Connection, we do just that by introducing you to the groundbreaking science and conservation work that's happening every day across the globe.
We talk to professionals in the world of conservation science and wildlife management, and we ask them about their career,
their current projects,
their wild and crazy stories from the field,
and everything in between.
This episode is a collaboration with EarthX here in Dallas, Texas.
EarthX is the largest Earth Day celebration in the world, and it brings in speakers from every corner of the environmental arena.
Listen in to hear the stories of today's environmental titans, covering everything from environmental law, ocean health, renewable energy, clean transportation, and so much more.
Let's get to the show.
Alrighty, guys, we're here today with Cassie Bowe and Bethany Gorham. This is another recording that we're doing at the EarthX event in Dallas. We are so excited to have you guys here. You both work with Energy Impact Partners, right?
Yep.
All right, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Excited to be here.
We're so excited to have you guys here. Just to start, can you guys give a general overview of how you got into this field?
Yeah, so this is Cassie. I was basically a sophomore in undergrad, and I thought there were only two jobs in the world based on what all my peers were doing, which was investment banking and consulting. And, I really wanted to do something that I believed in and cared about, but I didn't know what that would be or look like. And a track classmate of mine was working at a solar startup, and the second he told me that, I literally saw the light. And I was just like, in my 19-year-old mind, I was like, I can combine something I love with making money. This is great. And so since then, sophomore year, started working for that company. Then I started during college and out of college working for another solar company called SunPower, and I've been in energy since, and the rest is history. In terms of getting into investing, I focused the first part of my career on policy. In energy, you just absolutely can't operate without understanding the regulatory construct. This isn't the Uber and Airbnbs where you can just come into a market and start operating. And so I thought it was critical to understand that piece of things. And that's what I did in the solar company I was at, SunPower. And then I used my time during business school to really strengthen the technology piece of my foundation. So I worked at 3 different energy technology startups, one doing energy storage, another doing off-grid systems in Kenya, and another doing asset management for residential solar. And then I learned a lot about tech being at Stanford and just in the whole Silicon Valley ecosystem. And then I kind of brought together the third piece after policy and technology, which is finance. And, it's been a really interesting side of things, just seeing how the whole finance industry works. And you can't operate and be successful and make an impact unless you figured out that part too.
That's awesome. And then Bethany, if you want to give us an overview of your story.
Yeah, sure. So I probably had a little bit of a later entry into the energy space than Cassie. When I was in college, I was studying finance and marketing, but actually wanted to work in baseball. And so I was here at Texas Christian University, which is right down the road, go Frogs, and took a job as a summer intern for the Texas Rangers. And so worked in and out of baseball all throughout college, but was very academically minded and focused, and wasn't necessarily into the whole frat sorority scene. And so in an attempt to kind of find my own path and my own purpose in undergrad, took an opportunity that was provided to me by a gentleman who sits on the board of one of the former Texas Rangers nonprofit organizations. It's a group called Esperanza International. So they're a microfinance NGO based out of the Dominican Republic. And the thesis that I was presented with was kind of a single sentence research project. And it was, how do we effectively deliver clean water solutions to rural communities in the Dominican Republic? They were pretty well situated in the urban applications of clean water systems. And so I spent a great deal of time understanding the kind of fallacy of good intentions that goes aligned to delivering third world water solutions. Actually ended up moving down to the Dominican to spend a semester down there piloting clean water programs, and how do you go about ensuring the accountability of the system at that community level. And needless to say, day when I came back to TCU, I, very similar to Cassie, no longer found going to work for a big bank as something that was really going to be motivating for me. So in kind of a shifting of gears, decided to pursue a degree to learn more about the science of sustainability, environmental management. And so went to grad school, and really through grad school, the first class that I took was the global geopolitics of energy, and fell in love with the concept that all Earth's resources and all power struggles through all of history have really derived from natural resources, those that power everything that we do on a day-to-day basis. So from there, I took a graduate researcher, fellowship sort of job at NREL, which is a big laboratory in Golden, Colorado, focused on renewable energy research. And from there, fell in love with the renewable space and knew that I wanted to go into the energy sector. But when I got out of grad school, I really thought that taking a job with a nonprofit was the only way that I was going to be able to make an impact and to make a difference. And so from there, I went to NRDC, or Natural Resources Defense Council. They're a large environmental advocacy group based in New York. And while it was an incredible group of people who were brilliant and all working towards a mission really heavily weighted on the legal side, impacting policy, I didn't have a legal background. And so really felt that my skill set and my background in kind of finance and marketing, and then my newly found passion for natural resource systems and for energy could better be applied in the private sector. And so I made a move over to S&P Global, where I worked in energy data and analytics. And then finally made my way over to Energy Impact Partners, which I'm in a very different role and very different kind of work capacity, but I'm sure that we'll get into that later.
Awesome.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you've kind of been all over the place. You've done a lot. Both of you have. Can we talk a little bit more about EIP, Energy Impact Partners, and what exactly does that company focus on? What's the core of that?
Sure, I can go ahead and take that one. As investor relations, my job is to effectively communicate our story and narrative, so happy to do so. So EIP is a multi-corporate venture capital fund. We are unique in a sense that the vast majority of capital that our investors are giving us is coming from strategic partners. So we work very closely with some of the world's largest energy and utility companies. And through a platform that EIP provides, in which our investors or utilities are very much embedded into our investment process, they really support us with deal sourcing, even like regulatory entrepreneurship. And we effectively help them commercialize new technologies that are really critical to the long-term sustainability of their businesses by helping them innovate faster, deploy new technologies that historically have not necessarily been the utilities' forte in terms of partnership and even piloting these new technologies. And so where are we investing? It is in any technology that is relevant to the conversion of the energy system towards, an increasingly decarbonized, electrified, and decentralized future. So I will kind of leave it there and maybe let Cassie pick up.
Sure. So I'm on the investment side, and just taking a step back, for those who don't know, venture capital is an industry where we invest in usually early, relatively small private companies where we give them capital in exchange for equity in the company. Once we invest, we help them grow, and hopefully on a portfolio basis, those companies will grow and we'll be able to make money at the end of it, right? So that's traditional venture capital. And then as Bethany added, we also have this really strong strategic element, which not only helps our investors, but helps our portfolio. And so my job is to find startups for us to invest in, to figure out if those are the right companies for us to invest, and then to also work with the companies once we invest with them. So for us, we're typically looking for companies that have at least a couple million in revenue. So, they're up and running, they have commercial fit for their product, they have a pretty good team in place, and we're really the capital that helps them scale to that next level. In terms of the type of checks we write, it's usually $10 to $30 million. So, these are pretty big checks, especially for the energy industry. We end up owning usually something between, I'd say, like 10 to 30% of a company when we invest. And yeah, we're really looking at anything in energy, mobility, cyber technology, smart homes, buildings, cities, industrial IoT. What's been really great for me is that, I started back in 2010 when, it was like just renewables really felt like it was the energy world. But now we're seeing all these other industries that are overlapping with energy where they're realizing that energy is core to their success too. And so it's been cool being able to look at companies in all those spaces.
So I'm going to preface this with finance is super not my background. I'm like, let's go look at bugs and lizards. That's me. So basically the story that I'm getting from you guys is that this group, Energy Impact Partners, kind of brokers deals between utility providers, electric companies, stuff like that, and startup companies that are innovating to make utilities and energy more efficient and more eco-friendly, right? Would that be a good sum up, that you're connecting the utilities and the energy sector to startups that are making that sector greener moving on in the future? Is that about right?
Yeah, that's very close to right. The only slight caveat I would say there is that we're not directly brokering the deal between the utilities and the startups. What we are is that we take their capital in a fund that we've raised, and they've committed that capital to us and said, okay, you're the experts in finding startups. You're the experts in figuring out what are great investments. And together we can be the experts in energy. What's cool is that they get all of that strategic value they would get from a deal that they would directly broker, but with some of that additional kind of financial expertise that we have as career investors.
And I guess I would just add also that utilities, unlike the oil majors or the Amazons or the Googles of the world, they don't have a $2 billion a year budget to spend engaging in corporate venture capital. Our utilities, though, when we take those investments collectively, we are able to invest with larger ticket sizes, take greater control over those companies, and really guide our portfolio to work very strategically with our partners. And an entire in-house function within EIP is solely dedicated to the matchmaking process. So as Cassie said, while we're not actually a direct broker dealer, we very much are committed to the commercialization, the innovation kind of component of the story.
Cool. So with these companies that you're investing in, how do you find these groups? Do they kind of come to you? Do you have like a team dedicated to researching this?
Yeah, it's definitely a mix. I would say we're probably 50-50 inbound and outbound. Obviously, inbound is really nice.
I would imagine.
Sure.
We could just sit here and wait for all the good deals to come. Fortunately, we do have a really strong network between our utility partners. We all know folks in the energy industry really well. People know us. So if they're a startup in energy, they're probably going to reach out to us. So, we do get a lot of really good inbound in that way. But where you can find really great deals is in outbound. And at EIP, we're really lucky because we do have, as you said, this whole research function where they deep dive into different sectors that are interesting to us. They talk to every company in the space. They bring together all the experts from our utilities on that particular subject. And they're really able to find and kind of unearth interesting companies in that way. And then, the other probably 25%, I would say, is just research, going to conferences like this one, meeting companies, meeting people, that kind of thing.
Love it. Love it. I think one of the things that I really love about what you guys are doing is that sort of the classic model of environmentalism and taking care of the environment is you do a nonprofit and it's a passion project and there's no money to be made, but you're still making a difference. And that's not what this is. We are a business that is able to sustain ourselves through the work that we're doing, but that work that we're doing is making this world a better place. That's something that we're seeing more and more, is that it's not just nonprofits that are making things better. It's businesses that say there's lots of money to be made in making this world a better place. And it's really cool to see now that we have a market where that's economically viable to do.
And I would just say that even though our name is Energy Impact Partners, to your point, in no way are we an impact fund or do we classify ourselves as an impact fund, but we have a significant impact. And now that we have established ourselves as really strong investors in the space, regardless of what we are investing in, we're being approached by a lot of really big, strong name financial investors who want to join us, but those who have an environmental mandate to invest in technologies that will kind of support that sustainable energy ecosystem of the future. And so it's just interesting to see how impact investing in that term is really starting to converge around just investing. And if you don't have an impact, you likely aren't going to be around or be receiving capital from some of the major just pure play financial investors who are also taking those things into consideration.
And I think a lot of times when we think about kind of the finance world and the investment side, we think like, oh, it's mostly men that are involved in this. But you two are two powerhouse ladies that are in this investment field. Are there more women than we think there are in investment, or is it kind of still catching up a little?
I mean, it's funny. The last 3 hires that EIP has made have all been female. And so I think that is certainly indicative of a change that's starting to happen, but likely also just tied to EIP's culture and really acceptance of kind of all ideas, and the best idea, regardless of your race, of your gender, is going to win.
Yeah, I think, outside of EIP, it is rough out there. Like, we're at the intersection of venture capital, where fewer than 10% of people in the industry are women, and 75% of funds don't have a single female partner.
Wow.
Of energy, where it's about 20% women. Of entrepreneurship, where you have about 1 to 3% of venture capital going to women-founded companies. And utilities, which are, it's also a male-dominated industry. So, like, some days, I'm not going to lie, especially at conferences, you can walk around and really kind of feel like the only woman in the room. But it is changing. And to Bethany's point, it's happening with younger women first. And we are seeing a lot more progress. EIP is definitely doing better on average. And it's because we're intentional about it. And I think you have to be. But there's a long way to go, and I think we're in a powerful position because we're choosing the companies that we invest in, and then we're helping them with their hiring strategy too. So it's a really powerful position to be in.
Yeah, that's great. And I think that speaks to kind of a larger philosophy that protecting the environment and caring for this earth is not one demographics area. It affects every single human, regardless of race or gender or anything else going on. So to be able to bring some more equality into the field is a really great thing to see, because it affects all of us equally.
And Cassie, so you were named one of Forbes 30 under 30. What has that experience been like? And also, how did you get on that list?
Well, it's bittersweet. It's bitter because I'm not under 30 anymore as of recently. But maybe being on that list, everyone will think I'm under 30 forever.
There you go.
But yeah, no, it's been really great. Obviously a huge honor. There's a nomination process, a big application form, recommendations, that kind of thing, and then a selection committee. Who knows what goes on behind that black box? But, and then one day they just publish it and you're like, oh, I guess I got it.
I made it.
Yeah. But it's just been a really cool community to be a part of, because they have events that they put together, where you have other under 30 people. Adam James, who's our chief of staff at EIP, is also under 30, which is exciting. And we have a WhatsApp of all the energy under 30 people, and people just keep sending the coolest things that they're working on, articles they've published, podcasts they've done, technologies that they've founded. And so it's just a really cool group to be part of.
So if somebody listening right now wanted to learn more kind of about your company and what you guys do and just kind of get involved with it, where would they go to find more information about Energy Impact Partners?
So yeah, our website's a great resource. It's simply just www.energyimpactpartners.com. And we would love to hear from any of the listeners that are on today that want to learn more.
And I think what's also great about the website is that you can see all the companies that we've invested in. So we have about 25 companies that we've invested in. So you can also say, oh, okay, these are, really interesting startups that EIP and utilities are thinking about. And so it's also a really good way to find startups that you're interested in working at.
One last thought that I kind of want to bring into this discussion is that you guys are absolute proof that you don't have to be a forest ranger or a scientist to make a big difference for the earth. You can take whatever passion you have or whatever skill set you have and make that something that benefits everybody. It's not just about the people who are knee-deep in mud every day. It's the people in business suits who are working in the venture capital field, who are working to basically build the innovations for tomorrow. I just think that's a really awesome thing that you guys are able to highlight just by who you are and what you're doing. I think that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, and just to jump off of that, it also is a huge derivative of working for a company that has so many like-minded people that are all committed to a very similar mission. I think that I wouldn't feel as mission-driven or like I was making an impact if I didn't also walk into an office every single day and look around and see people who are equally driven by the same motivators and that same kind of care and affection for the planet.
It's also a sign of the times. It's, this day and age, you don't have to choose between caring about climate and about making a profit, about clean tech and making a profit, about changing the world and making a profit. That is the way that you make profit these days. And EIP, so far in our portfolio, we have better returns on average than other venture funds because that's what we're investing on. And so I think it was kind of like a false choice of the past. And maybe at one point it was true, but now it's not. And it's going to be actually the way that we have a competitive advantage.
That's awesome. And I hope you guys have a great time here at EarthX and maybe even find some new startups to invest in. And it was great to have you guys on the show with us today.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Conservation Connection.
If you enjoyed our podcast, go ahead and subscribe to make sure you catch every episode that we post.
We would love to hear from you. So if you want to reach out, go to our website, lastchanceendeavors.com/contact and shoot us an email.
We love questions from our listeners. So if you heard something that you want to know more about, be sure to let us know.
We'll post bonus content that addresses your questions and gives you a little more information.
A big thanks to EarthX for hosting us, and a big thanks to you for listening. Don't forget to tune in next week.